Welcome back to Idaho Today. Before the break, we dove into the topic of microaggression with expert Attallah Pamoja, and she explained that microaggression is usually something that people don't intend on being negative. They may actually have great intentions, trying to deliver a compliment, but the preconceived judgment and cultures that we bring to a conversation that can actually have a really big impact on someone, and it merits pause and deeper thought on our behalf. Here's what else that Attallah had to share on how we can all be more mindful and thoughtful when communicating with each other. Share with us the 3 C's, because those are really great tools for helping us correct some of this behavior, right?
Absolutely. We've come up with the 3 C's, and it's pretty catchy. And actually, the first C is catch it. And so what it is being able to practice emotional intelligence, being self-aware, and being able to say, guess what? I am about to think, or I just thought or said something that was pretty biased. Right? Or
Yes.
maybe I did something that was pretty biased. So catching yourself. And then the second C is checking it. So checking yourself, or are you in a space where a family member or a friend or maybe a colleague can check you and you all can check each other? That means you all are safe and brave enough to be yourselves and say, hey, guess what? I noticed that you said something or you did something, and I could tell that it probably didn't land the way that you intended it to. Let's try to see if we can check and just stop and reflect on, why did you say that? Why did I say that? Is it true? Is there any evidence to support what I just said or what I just thought? Mm-hmm. And then lastly, being able to really practice, and or I should say put in practice some of the things that you're thinking about or wanting to be, and then saying, guess what? I'm going to try to change this thought, and now my actions are going to follow along with it. And so just want to let everyone know, catching it, checking it, and changing it, it takes work. It's a journey, sometimes of unlearning things that we've known or come to believe to be true many times for decades. So think about if you're someone in your 30s or someone in your 60s and you've always believed this to be true, but it's not necessarily based on truth and there's not enough evidence to support it. We want to treat people as individuals, not group them into just who they are based on their gender or their race or their ability or their appearance. And diversity is so vast. There's so many different ways that we're unfortunately judging people every day.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I do have to ask, if you find that you have been a victim of microaggression, what do you do?
So, this is tricky because, for instance, at work or maybe even within your family or friend groups, you may be encountering microaggressions. And sometimes the person who is being microaggressed against does not want to damage the relationship. So what we find is, in these instances, people don't say anything. Sometimes you can see it on their face, but what happens is a lot of people tend to withdraw, right? Mm-hmm. So think about a colleague or colleagues, or if you've ever been microaggressed against and you keep hearing these messages over and over again, you might start to distance yourself. You might not contribute to your work as much as you did. And you may even say, you know what, this is too much for me to handle. I might want to transition to somewhere else. And so that's what a lot of people do many times when they're faced with consistent, constant microaggressions. That impact can be very debilitating. How can people really defend themselves? And one thing that I think is huge is for us to be able to advocate for each other. Many times the person who's being microaggressed against has had to do that work of defending themselves many times too often. So how can we advocate for someone who may not be from the same background as us, but we're noticing things? We're aware of the fact that this particular person is experiencing this. And so I always say, if you do have a support system, if there's a colleague who understands and who you can talk to, reach out to them, embrace people so that way they can also be a support system for you, because taking up for yourself, defending yourself is a lot of work. We call it an emotional burden. Mm-hmm. to have to be able to constantly say, please don't say that, or that made me feel a kind of way, because it does make, things a little bit awkward many times, especially if you don't feel safe enough in certain environments. If it's your supervisor, how are you going to tell your supervisor, hey, please don't say that anymore? So finding a network or support system of people is going to really be helpful for you. Also, I would say just education is huge, right? Education, learning about yourself and also learning about others. And going back to what I said earlier about people being well intentioned, if we give people grace, 9 times out of 10, we'll see that they really did not mean to be offensive. But many times microaggressions happen because people just don't see enough examples of what the stereotype is not or what you are not. They only see the stereotypes. And so every time I see someone, who has a hood over their head, if I've watched, 20 crime shows in my life, and every time someone was coming to do a crime, they had a hood over their head, my unconscious bias tells me that the next time I see someone with a hood over their head, that they're going to commit a crime. But with the 3 C's, you say to yourself, do I have any evidence to believe that this person is a criminal? If the answer is no, then you can now check yourself and work on changing that thought.
So much great information. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Where can people go to learn more?
So, definitely I always like to say Google is available. But when it comes to, just some specific resources that myself and other colleagues have found helpful, there is a guide to responding to microaggressions, and it's called Did You Really Just Say That? It's by the American Psychological Association, and then by the Harvard Business Review, there is an article called When and How to Respond to Microaggressions, and this is a guide to responding as well. And so we want people to be able to respond. We want people to be able to feel empowered, and we want people to be able to connect and continue relationship building versus what happens many times is people start to distance themselves and that division continues to happen.
Yeah, and that's something that we all can work on.